Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
We're your shortcut, really, to being truly well-informed. There's just so much information out there.
Absolutely overwhelming sometimes.
Our mission, cut through all that noise. We find the most important nuggets, the key insights, help you connect the dots.
Make sense of it all.
Exactly. And today, wow, we are diving deep into the mind of, well, one of our era's most visionary figures, Jeff Bezos.
A big topic.
Huge. We're exploring the bedrock of his success, his unwavering, almost relentless, goal-oriented skills.
That single-minded focus.
Yeah, you'll see how it showed up across like 7 pivotal stages of his career, the surprising benefits, the competitors he faced, and honestly, some invaluable lessons for anyone trying to build something impactful.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is seeing how this consistent framework, this goal-setting approach, let him build from basically a garage startup to well, an empire that's now literally aiming for the stars.
Right. We'll trace those threads, see how these massive visions became, tangible actions.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's rewind. 1994. Jeff Bezos. He's a highly paid vice president at D.E. Shaw & Co. Big finance job.
Comfortable, secure.
Totally. But he's facing this monumental fork in the road. He sees the internet exploding, growing at, 2,300% annually?
Just staggering growth, unheard of.
And he decides to take this calculated, audacious risk, quits the job, launches Amazon.com, an online bookstore from his garage.
Where's his garage, yeah.
His vision was just crystalline, wasn't it? Capitalize on this digital gold rush, build something that simply couldn't exist physically.
And that foundational period, it really is like a masterclass in goal-oriented thinking.
How so?
Well, one really striking thing is his famous regret minimization framework.
Ah, yes, I've heard of this.
It wasn't just a catchy phrase, He genuinely projected himself forward to age 80 and asked himself, would I regret not trying this? Not failing, but not trying.
That's powerful. It clarifies things.
Immensely. That intensely personal long-term goal drove the decision. Then look at his strategic product selection. He didn't just randomly pick books.
Right, it was methodical.
Completely. He evaluated, I think, 20 different product categories, settled on books because, well, they're standardized, right? And the sheer vastness of selection you could offer online was key. Build that early customer trust.
A very focused entry point.
Exactly. And crucially, there was that immediate bias for action. He got that waiting for perfect information. That just leads to analysis paralysis. His goal was move quickly, decisively. Opportunities don't wait.
So this really focused beginning, this bias for action,
What
was the immediate impact for that tiny garage startup?
Well, the benefits were profound and fast. That decisiveness. It secured Amazon a critical first-mover advantage in online retail, captured mind share.
Huge.
And it translated directly into rapid growth. Amazon.com, get this, served over 1.5 million customers by 1997.
Wow. In just 3 years.
Yeah, and revenue growth, 838%, up to $147 million.
Incredible numbers.
And fundamentally, those early goal-driven choices, they laid this incredibly solid groundwork for the company we know today. You saw his personal conviction, too. Leaving that VP job in '94, even when his boss advised against it.
Powered by that regret framework.
Exactly. And he was hands-on, driving to Seattle himself to buy the domain name, developing software in his garage, even the branding shift, changing Cadabra to Amazon.
Like Amazon again?
Scale, like the river.
Yeah.
And strategically, it appeared early in alphabetical search listings back then. Very goal-oriented move.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, but who were they actually up against at this really early stage? What did that competitive landscape look like?
Well, primarily, you had the established traditional bookstores, Borders, Barnes & Noble, and mail-order businesses he was directly aiming to disrupt.
The incumbents.
Right. Then there were lots of other sort of nascent internet ventures, small companies, individuals seeing the potential, but often, lacking Bezos's focused execution, his big vision.
Less disciplined, maybe.
Perhaps. And of course, the big players like Barnes & Noble, who, frankly, were initially quite blindsided by Amazon's speed and its truly online-first approach.
So for anyone listening, maybe starting their own venture today, what are the key takeaways from this genesis period of Amazon?
Oh, I think there are 3 really vital lessons here. First, define your own regret minimization goals. Use that long-term thinking. Identify opportunities you genuinely kick yourself for not trying. It's a powerful motivator.
Okay, makes sense.
Second, prioritize a scalable business model right from day one. Build a plan that can grow like exponentially with the market, not constrained by old physical limits.
Think big from the start.
Exactly. And third, absolutely embrace action over analysis paralysis. Taking deliberate steps, even with imperfect info, usually way better than just waiting. Seize those fleeting chances.
Right, building on that initial momentum.
Yeah.
How did that goal-oriented spirit evolve?
Yeah.
Especially as Amazon expanded and really started honing its famous customer focus after going public.
Yeah, this next phase is pivotal. Customer obsession really became Amazon's North Star. After the IPO in 97, they diversified rapidly, right? Beyond books, CDs, videos, clothes, electronics, toys.
Expanding quickly.
Very. But what's remarkable is Bezos' deliberate choice to not spend big on traditional marketing.
Really? That seems counterintuitive for a public company trying to grow.
It does, but instead he relied almost entirely on word of mouth, fueled by just exceptional customer experience. His philosophy was simple but profound. If you build a great experience, customers tell each other. Word of mouth is powerful.
So the experience was the marketing.
Precisely. He declared customer satisfaction the only thing and set that audacious goal: become Earth's most customer-centric company.
That's a bold strategy, especially then. Where do we really see his goal-oriented skills shining through in this customer-centric phase?
Oh, it was everywhere, baked into the culture. You saw that obsessive customer focus explicitly stated as a core value. Bezos made a conscious choice. Laser focus on customer experience is our biggest competitive advantage, the bedrock of the business model. It wasn't just a slogan, it was the driving goal.
Okay.
Another sign, that strategic bet on word of mouth. By not doing huge marketing spends, he was betting directly that a product or service genuinely worth talking about was the most sustainable growth engine. A clear goal to build real intrinsic value.
Big.
Huge, and maybe most telling. His comfort with being misunderstood. Bezos famously said he was very comfortable being misunderstood for prioritizing long-term customer satisfaction over, short-term profits. That shows unwavering commitment to that long-term customer-first goal.
So what were the actual tangible benefits? Did this relentless customer obsession pay off?
Oh, absolutely. Transformative advantages. It created this formidable competitive edge. Customer service became Amazon's moat, paving the way for sustained market leadership.
Hard to replicate.
Very. It also fostered organic, sustainable growth, positive word of mouth. That became a remarkably cost-effective growth engine, building an incredibly loyal customer base. And maybe most powerfully, it built enduring trust and reputation. Think about the customer reviews, even the negative ones. That transparency built deep trust, repeat business, a powerful brand.
Right, the reviews were key.
Definitely. You saw it applied practically with that comprehensive review system, empowering customers even if a bad review cost a short-term sale. He also championed that charge less philosophy, constantly finding ways to cut costs, increase efficiency, pass savings to customers.
Always driving prices down.
Always. And critically, he scaled that bias for action, encouraged employees to err on the side of action, leading to innovations like, famously, one-click shopping.
Game changer.
Okay.
As Amazon shifted to this really unique customer focus, who are the competitors? Who was struggling to keep up?
Well, the traditional brick-and-mortar guys found it almost impossible, didn't they? Matching the selection, the online convenience, they were tied to physical stores.
Limited by walls.
Exactly. Other online retailers were definitely playing, but many just lacked that obsessive, singular focus on the customer experience that Amazon had.
It wasn't their core goal, maybe.
Seems like it. And then you had the purely price-focused competitors trying to win just on low prices, but without building that superior experience Amazon was delivering. It wasn't enough.
So for entrepreneurs today, looking to build something lasting, what's the takeaway from this customer-centric phase of Bezos?
The lessons here, incredibly clear, I think. First, prioritize customer satisfaction above absolutely everything else. That relentless focus. It's the most powerful competitive advantage. It drives sustainable growth, and it can seriously reduce your marketing spend.
Let the customers do the talking.
Pretty much. Second, actively earn word of mouth. Invest deeply. Create exceptional products, exceptional services that customers just naturally want to talk about. It's the most authentic marketing there is.
And cost-effective.
Totally. And third, cultivate deep conviction in your long-term vision. Be prepared to be misunderstood, especially by short-term thinkers. Stick rigorously to your principles, particularly when they're built around your customer.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, I think. How did this long-term view, this financial discipline, allow Amazon to survive the dot-com bust when so many others failed? That set the stage for everything else, didn't it?
Absolutely critical period. Around 2000, the internet bubble just bursts. Countless dot-coms vanish overnight. But Amazon stood firm.
How?
It wasn't luck. It was a direct result of Bezos's, quote, unusually slow-paced business plan, his unwavering commitment to reinvesting revenue, keeping prices low, and crucially, his goal was focused singularly on free cash flow, not traditional accounting profit.
That was unusual back then, right? Focusing on cash flow.
Very. Wall Street wanted earnings per share. Bezos focused on the actual cash the business generated, and maybe the most audacious move of this era, launching Amazon Prime in 2005.
Prime, which seemed crazy financially at first.
Exactly. By conventional models, it looked like a terrible idea. But Bezos pushed it through, based on its massive potential for long-term customer value.
So what were the hallmarks, the signs of his goal-oriented skills during this really financially disciplined time?
Well, number one, that clear prioritization of free cash flow. It was a deliberate, almost revolutionary choice to measure success and guide investments by cash flow, not a GAAP earnings. And he communicated this relentlessly to shareholders. That was a core long-term financial health goal.
Stick to the plan.
Absolutely. Then, his unwavering long-term investment strategy. Foregoing profits for over 6 years, constantly reinvesting, building infrastructure, expanding, even under intense pressure. His goal was sustained exponential growth, not quick wins.
Playing the long game.
Definitely. And finally, that judgment-based decision-making for the big, risky bets. Prime is the classic example. Based on an intuitive grasp of immense customer benefit, even when the initial numbers looked bad. His goal was deep customer value, overriding short-term financial optics.
What were the tangible benefits that came from this financial resilience and bold moves like Prime?
Oh, profound benefits. That disciplined cash management. It provided incredible crisis resilience. It allowed them to survive the dot-com bust while competitors vaporized, letting them grab huge market share.
Opportunity in crisis.
Exactly. That strong free cash flow also enabled sustained innovation. It provided the capital to experiment, to try new things without being choked by the need for immediate payoffs.
Freedom to invent.
Precisely. And finally, that bold bet on Prime. With its perceived value, like free shipping, it dramatically deepened customer loyalty, increased buying frequency, satisfaction, locked customers into the ecosystem long term.
It created the habit.
Totally. Practically, this meant that aggressive reinvestment strategy continued, plow revenue back in, keep prices low, expand operations. He optimized the operating cycle, quick inventory turns, collecting customer payments before paying suppliers, creating that powerful cash moat.
Clever accounting, almost.
Very effective cash management. And he was consistent with shareholders, repeatedly including his original 1997 letter in annual reports, reminding them of Amazon's long-term financial philosophy.
Constant reinforcement.
Right.
So during this turbulent time, who just couldn't keep up with Amazon's long-term financial game?
Well, obviously, many of the other dot-com era companies just lacked that long-term vision, that financial discipline. They burned through cash and collapsed.
Gone.
Yep. Traditional retailers, too, tied to less flexible models, often struggled in downturns, couldn't match Amazon's reinvestment firepower, and frankly, the short-term, focused investors. Those pressuring companies for immediate profits just didn't get Bezos' approach, which Amazon deliberately resisted.
What critical financial strategy lessons can entrepreneurs take from this period? It seems vital for survival.
Absolutely vital. First, cultivate strategic patience for profitability. Real sustainable growth often means deferring short-term gains. Be willing to make those significant long-haul investments.
Don't chase quarterly results obsessively.
Exactly. Second, focus intensely on free cash flow. As your critical measure of long-term health, your investment capacity. It's often a much better indicator of underlying strength than reported earnings.
Cash is king, really.
It really is. And third, develop the courage to trust your customer-centric judgment on the bold bets. Make decisions that undeniably benefit customers, even if the spreadsheets don't immediately scream yes. Long-term value often trumps short-term projections.
Okay, so Amazon survives the bust, builds this financial fortress. How did Bezos' goal-oriented mindset then propel them into completely new territories? Beyond e-commerce, platforms, products.
Yeah, this next era really cemented Amazon as an innovation powerhouse, driven by Bezos' unique goal-oriented way of seeing and seizing new opportunities. We saw the Kindle launch in 2007 revolutionize reading, sold out instantly.
Huge moment.
But even more strategically significant, maybe, was turning their internal tech infrastructure into Amazon Web Services, AWS.
The cloud.
The cloud. which quickly became a cornerstone of Amazon's business, eventually driving most of their profits. It was brilliant.
Turning a cost into a profit center.
Exactly. And he also champions self-service platforms Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, and Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA, famously driven by his belief that even well-meaning gatekeepers slow innovation, and that R&D should just pervade every department.
Innovation everywhere, not just in a lab.
That was the goal.
That's a huge shift for what started as a retailer.
Yeah.
How did innovation become such a deliberate, driving goal for him?
Well, you see it in the actions. There was this proactive invention on behalf of customers, pushing hard for things like Kindle and AWS that customers didn't explicitly ask for, but found immense, almost indispensable value in. That shows a goal to lead the market, not just react.
Anticipating needs.
Right. He also showed this unwavering pursuit of a disruptive vision, aiming to fundamentally improve established concepts, the physical book, traditional logistics, not just tweak them. His goal was radical transformation.
Big swings.
Big swings, and critically, a deep belief in distributed innovation. His insistence that innovation comes from a large, inventive team empowered by self-service platforms. That shows dedication to scaling creativity as a core business goal.
What were the impacts of these ambitious ventures? AWS, Kindle, FBA, and how are these goals applied practically inside Amazon?
Oh, the impacts were massive. Diversified the whole business. AWS became the profit engine, high margins, turning that internal cost into a gold mine.
Unbelievable, really.
Kindle revolutionized reading, cemented Amazon as a tech innovator way beyond retail, and platforms like KDP and FBA. They accelerated innovation exponentially by empowering this huge network of third-party sellers and creators. Massive growth, constant evolution.
How to do it. The methods.
Famously, the working backwards methodology for Kindle started with the audacious customer vision, any book, accessed in less than 60 seconds, then built the tech and got the skills needed.
Start with the customer experience.
Always. Bezos also focused on cultivating missionaries, hiring people truly passionate about disrupting industries, people who understood the appeal of the old ways so they could effectively transform them.
Passionate disruptors.
Exactly. And perhaps most brilliantly, transforming internal tools into external services. AWS grew directly from Amazon's own infrastructure needs. Bezos saw the potential and offered it to others.
Monetizing internal solutions.
Yeah.
Okay, who are they disrupting or competing with in these new spaces? Books, cloud, logistics.
Well, traditional book publishers and retailers like Barnes & Noble felt the Kindle disruption keenly. Their physical model, traditional processes directly challenged.
Same time.
In the early cloud space, they were up against other pioneers and later big players like Microsoft and IBM as they entered the market. And of course, other e-reader developers trying to create competing devices.
So for entrepreneurs looking to innovate, to expand, what are the key takeaways from this intense period of platform and product building?
3 vital lessons, I'd say. First, always work backwards from customer needs. Figure out what they really want, then build it, even if it means learning completely new skills.
Customer first, then build.
Right. Second, empower others through platforms. Create those self-service tools. Unlock exponential innovation and growth by letting a broader community create value. Don't try to do it all yourself.
To scale through others.
Exactly. And third, make sure R&D permeates your whole organization. Tech and innovation can't be stuck in a silo. They need to be everywhere to stay competitive and drive new ventures.
Okay, let's unpack the next phase. Amazon's scaling into this global giant. How did Bezos' goal-oriented thinking help them fight off complacency, maintain that famous day one mentality?
Yeah, as Amazon just ballooned, Bezos became almost obsessed with preventing day two, which he defined as stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. Pretty stark.
Doesn't mince words.
Not at all. So to fight it, he rigorously implemented and scaled the day one culture, emphasizing speed, that radical customer obsession, bold innovation, no matter how big they got.
How do you do that practically?
Well, things like the 2 pizza teams, small autonomous units, and the one-way, two-way door decision framework to speed things up. He famously kept saying, failure and invention are inseparable twins. Use lessons from missteps, like the Fire Phone, to directly inform future successes. The core goal here was making innovation and agility scalable, not just for startups.
Keeping the startup vibe in a giant company. That's a huge challenge.
Mhm.
What were the specific signs of his goal-oriented skills in battling this day two threat?
You could see it in that relentless fight against complacency. His deep-seated fear of day two drove this continuous push for startup energy despite the scale. A clear, active goal: prevent organizational entropy.
Constant vigilance.
Totally. Another key sign: his radical acceptance of experimental failure, explicitly saying, if you know in advance that it's going to work, it's not an experiment. Highlighting a passion for true, risky invention, viewing failure as necessary. His goal was rapid learning and adaptation.
Failure as data.
Exactly. And critically, strategically categorizing decisions, that one-way, two-way door framework, distinguishing reversible decisions from irreversible ones, optimized for speed sometimes, deliberation others. That decision-making goal ensured efficient yet considered progress at massive scale.
How did these unique cultural goals actually translate into sustained success for such a massive company?
The impacts were super clear. It fostered sustained innovation at scale, treating failures as learning. That directly led to successes like Echo and Alexa, which famously learned from the Fire Phone's failures.
Turning failure into success.
Right. It also maintained incredible operational agility. Decentralized decision-making, those two pizza teams, clear frameworks kept them nimble despite the complexity, and it led to consistent high-quality outcomes. That relentless pursuit of high standards ensured superior products and services, building trust, maintaining leadership.
How did things like two pizza teams work in practice?
The rule was simple: teams small enough to be fed by two pizzas, promoted efficiency, autonomy, ownership, aligned perfectly with decentralized decision-making. He also championed disagree and commit. Foster open debate, yes, but once a decision's made, everyone commits fully to execution.
Avoids endless debate.
Exactly. And he consistently modeled learning from missteps, took the Fire Phone failure in stride, called it a necessary failure that genuinely informed successes like Alexa.
Who were Amazon's rivals as it fought day two and tried to stay agile?
Well, indirectly, they were always contrasting themselves with other large established companies, implicitly battling that tendency towards bureaucracy and risk aversion you see elsewhere.
The day two companies.
Right, more directly. In smart home, Google with Google Home was a clear competitor to Echo Alexa, and Apple, with Apple TV, competed against Amazon's Fire TV in streaming hardware.
What are the vital lessons here for entrepreneurs about fighting complacency, staying nimble even as they scale up?
Three crucial ones emerge, I think. First, relentlessly fight complacency with a day one mentality. Constantly strive for startup agility, hunger, innovation, regardless of size. Avoid stagnation at all costs.
Stay hungry.
Yes. Second, view failure as a competitive advantage. Frame missteps as inevitable, valuable learning opportunities that directly drive future invention. Requires resilience, willingness to pivot.
Learn from mistakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And third, optimize for decision velocity. Implement frameworks, cultural principles that allow for high-quality, high-velocity decision-making. Crucial for staying ahead in fast markets.
Okay, let's shift focus again. How did Bezos' goal-oriented approach extend beyond Amazon's core business? Diversification, broader impact?
Yeah, this period really shows Amazon expanding beyond pure e-commerce, reflecting Bezos' strategic vision for, comprehensive market presence. In 2017, the big move, acquiring Whole Foods for $13.7 billion, a significant, deliberate dive into physical retail, groceries.
Big jump into bricks and mortar.
Huge. And beyond Amazon itself, Bezos personally bought the Washington Post in 2013 for $250 million, actively engaged in its digital transformation, led it back to profitability.
Interesting personal move.
And he showed this growing commitment beyond business, too. Launched big philanthropic initiatives, the Bezos Day One Fund in 2018 for homelessness and education, the Bezos Earth Fund in 2020, committing $10 billion to climate change.
Huge sums.
Massive. And Amazon also responded to public pressure, raising its minimum wage to $15 an hour in the U.S. in 2018. A goal shift reflecting external stakeholder engagement.
What were the signs of his goal-oriented skills as he started looking so far beyond Amazon's traditional core?
Well, a clear sign was that proactive diversification into adjacent markets. Strategic decision, expand into new sectors like physical retail, media, leveraging existing strengths, customer base, logistics to create this whole ecosystem.
Holding the flywheel wider.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You also saw him leveraging personal capital for broader impact, buying the Post, funding those massive charities, a deliberate choice to use his wealth for influence beyond just Amazon's business interests. And critically, that responsiveness to public pressure. The wage increase showed a willingness to adjust business goals based on external input.
What were the benefits of this really expansive vision?
Yeah.
And how did he apply these goals practically?
The benefits were multifold. Significant ecosystem expansion, for one. Whole Foods deepened the ecosystem, drove retention, increased sales by entering that daily needs market.
Got people buying groceries via Amazon.
Right. He also catalyzed digital transformation in legacy industries. His direct involvement revitalized the Post, powerfully showing how that tech-first, customer-centric mindset could transform traditional media. And these efforts, well, they aimed for enhanced brand reputation. Philanthropy, wage increases complex, yes, but aimed to improve public image, address societal challenges, contribute to long-term sustainability goals.
How did it work in practice? Like the Whole Foods integration.
Strategic vertical integration there, using the acquisition to control a key part of the supply chain, enhance customer convenience, especially with 2-hour delivery. He also applied cultural infusion in new ventures, bringing Amazon's tech-first, data-driven, customer-centric approach to the Post, even dramatically upping its tech staff.
Bringing the Amazon way elsewhere.
Exactly. And finally, dedicating personal wealth to philanthropy, allocating billions to tackle major societal environmental challenges.
In these new arenas, groceries, media, philanthropy, who were the new competitors?
Well, in groceries, they went head-to-head with traditional chains. Walmart, Kroger, Albertsons.
The giant.
Yep. In media, legacy companies like the New York Times had to adapt significantly to compete with a digitally supercharged Washington Post. And in philanthropy, he's operating alongside other major philanthropists, established foundations.
For entrepreneurs thinking about diversification, broader impact as they grow, what are the key lessons from this period?
I think 3 compelling lessons stand out. First, embrace diversification for ecosystem growth. Consider expanding, maybe even into seemingly unrelated sectors, to build a more comprehensive ecosystem, leveraging your strengths and customer relationships.
Connect the dots.
Right. Second, intentionally use technology to transform legacy industries. That tech-first, customer-centric mindset. It can be incredibly successful revitalizing traditional businesses, even outside your core competence. And third, embrace social responsibility as you grow. As influence expands, proactively addressing societal challenges becomes crucial for brand reputation, employee engagement, long-term sustainability.
Okay, finally, let's leap forward. Bezos' latest, maybe grandest passion, space exploration. How is that Amazon-derived, goal-oriented approach being injected into Blue Origin?
Yeah. 2021, Bezos makes that momentous, deliberate transition, steps down as Amazon CEO, becomes executive chairman, explicitly to dedicate more time to other passions. And Blue Origin, his aerospace company founded way back in 2000, is top of that list.
Blue Origin, the space company.
Right. And its goal, incredibly ambitious, make space travel accessible, eventually enable humanity to live in free-floating space colonies to sustain future growth.
Wow, big goal.
Huge. And Bezos is now actively injecting Amazon's hard driving culture into Blue Origin, bringing in former Amazon execs to accelerate progress, compete more fiercely in this new space race. His ultimate stated goal, nothing less than making history.
That really sounds like the ultimate go big or go home goal. How does this massive vision, this step into space, manifest his goal-oriented skills on such an incredible scale?
It feels like a culmination, doesn't it? First, that strategic stepping down for focused pursuit, transitioning from Amazon CEO to focus on Blue Origin. That's deliberate allocation of his most valuable resource time to chase a lifelong passion, a truly grand vision for humanity's future, a clear, singular goal.
Dedicating himself to it.
Exactly. Then there's that unyielding go big or go home mentality for historical impact. Despite Amazon's success, he believes he's not near the end of the story, driven to make history with Blue Origin, aiming for trillions of humans in space colonies to avoid stasis and rationing on Earth. The goal is solving humanity's perceived resource limits on a cosmic scale.
Thinking way, way beyond quarterly results now.
Way beyond. And finally, that calculated cultural infusion and operational restructuring, actively injecting Amazon's hard-driving culture, bringing in former execs that signals a decisive effort to streamline operations, enhance competitiveness, a clear goal to rapidly boost Blue Origin's performance.
What are the potential benefits of this focused, singular pursuit of such a grand long-term goal?
Well, for such an ambitious project, the benefits are substantial. His direct, full-time involvement allows for incredibly focused leadership on Blue Origin's complex, long-term goals, potentially addressing resource limits in a truly radical way.
Concentrated effort.
Right. It also aims for accelerated space development. That disciplined infusion of Amazon's operational rigor aims to significantly speed up Blue Origin's progress, its competitiveness in the intense space race. And undeniably, it attracts top talent. His personal commitment, the audacious vision backed by his track record, continues to draw incredibly skilled people.
How does this apply practically at Blue Origin?
Well, their motto itself, Gradum Ferociter, step by step, ferociously, that encapsulates a patient yet aggressive approach to incredibly complex engineering. You see strategic leadership transfer, former Amazon Devices chief Dave Limp appointed CEO, other Amazon vets brought in to instill rigor.
Bringing in the A-team.
Seems like it. And it's backed by continuous personal funding. Bezos keeps funding Blue Origin by selling large chunks of Amazon stock, shows profound financial commitment.
Who are the main players in this new space race? Who's Blue Origin competing against?
SpaceX, led by Elon Musk. Unequivocally the most direct, formidable rival, often seen as having a faster, maybe more risk-tolerant approach.
The big competitor.
For sure. You also have the traditional aerospace giants Boeing, Lockheed Martin competing for government contracts, bringing decades of expertise, and of course, government agencies like NASA, often partners, but also setting the bar, representing the pinnacle of achievement.
What are the ultimate lessons for entrepreneurs from this latest go big or go home chapter of Bezos' journey?
Well, for those with truly world-changing ambitions, the lessons are pretty clear. First, pursue those go big or go home visions. Aim to make history, tackle monumental challenges, even if they take decades of sustained effort, immense personal commitment.
Think really big?
Really big. Second, strategically transfer proven corporate cultures. Successful operational cultural elements from one company can be powerfully injected into new ventures to accelerate performance, even across vastly different industries.
Leverage what works.
Right. And finally, prepare for intense public and ethical scrutiny with world-changing ambitions. Any endeavor involving vast resources, huge societal implications, will inevitably face significant public, ethical, political scrutiny, a challenge all leaders pursuing grand goals must navigate.
What an incredible journey we've just covered, tracing the evolution of Jeff Bezos' goal-oriented skills, right from Amazon's start into Blue Origin.
Quite a story.
From that initial leap, guided by regret minimization to relentless customer obsession, financial prudence, groundbreaking platforms like AWS and Kindle, he consistently showed that disciplined pursuit of long-term, day-one thinking.
That thread runs through it all.
Yeah, his willingness to invent for customers, embrace failure as learning, constantly challenge the status quo. It really drove him to make history, build those competitive advantages.
It really reinforces that effective goal setting isn't static, is it? It's an ever-evolving strategic imperative, fueled by a visionary, adaptable, and, well, relentless mindset.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up, maybe a provocative thought for you listening. How does that relentless pursuit of grand goals, which drives incredible innovation and wealth, also inevitably bring immense scrutiny? That constant challenge of balancing ambition with societal expectations.
A huge tension.
How do leaders navigate that as their influence just expands across industries, and now even into space? Something to think about.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
And fascinating.
Keep learning, keep exploring. Welcome curious minds to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
We're your shortcut, really, to being truly well-informed. You know, there's just so much information out there.
Absolutely overwhelming sometimes.
Our mission, cut through all that noise. We find the most important nuggets, the key insights, help you connect the dots.
Make sense of it all.
Exactly. And today, wow, we are diving deep into the mind of, well, one of our era's most visionary figures, Jeff Bezos.
A big topic.
Huge. We're exploring the bedrock of his success, his unwavering, almost relentless, goal-oriented skills.
That single-minded focus.
Yeah, you'll see how it showed up across like 7 pivotal stages of his career, the surprising benefits, the competitors he faced, and honestly, some invaluable lessons for anyone trying to build something impactful.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is seeing how this consistent framework, this goal-setting approach, let him build from basically a garage startup to, well, an empire that's now literally aiming for the stars.
Right. We'll trace those threads